Hey guys, today we're going to look at two related things. We're going to look at serratus anterior push-ups, or scapula push-ups sometimes they're called, and also taking that movement, which is essentially just protraction and retraction of the shoulder blades, and putting that into the vinyasa as an alternative instead of doing chaturanga. So let's just first talk about what the movement is. The shoulder blades can move in several different directions. And I'll show you on my own body too, but they can spread away from each other and kind of wrap forward. They can draw towards each other. So spreading away and kind of wrapping away from each other is protraction. Inner border of the shoulder blade drawing together is retraction. They can elevate and they can depress. They can do other things too, and they can do a combination of those things, but for our purposes now, we'll just look at those movements. So let me show you on my body. I tried to wear a shirt where you'd be able to see my shoulder blades, the movement of my shoulder blades. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to have my hands straight forward like I would be in hands and knees. And I can draw my shoulder blades together. That's retraction, neutral. I spread them away and kind of puff up the space between them. That's protraction. And then back to neutral. So again, retraction of the shoulder blades, neutral, protraction of the shoulder blades, neutral. You can also elevate and depress. And you can upwardly rotate as well, but we're not going to get into that right now. So elevation and depression. And I just bring that up because I like for students to be able to separate those movements. A lot of people have them coupled. So I actually have a student who I'm going to see this afternoon who on her right shoulder blade cannot, in this orientation, retract her right shoulder blade without also elevating it. So that's pretty common that the movement of elevation and retraction or protraction is coupled, but we want to try to clarify. So we just try to get people to do less if they need to, but that's retraction, neutral, and protraction, and then neutral. So I usually teach that first on hands and knees seated or standing, so it's not weight bearing. Interestingly, it's sometimes harder for people in that position, but I still like to start there without weight bearing just to kind of try to play with it. But then I'll move and have people do it on hands and knees. For some people it's harder, for some people it's easier. So I'll just show you what it looks like. To have people on hands and knees. And then retraction of the shoulder blade, inner shoulder blades draw together, neutral, protraction, spread and puff, neutral, retraction, neutral, protraction, neutral. Once people are comfortable doing it on hands and knees, then I have people do it in plank. So retraction, neutral, protraction, neutral, retraction, neutral, protraction, neutral. And what you'll see there in my body is I'm not as strong in the movement of protraction, especially once we bring it to plank. You don't see a ton of movement, but I bet you can see the difference between sinking my shoulder blades together and spreading them away from each other. I'm going to get a new mic, by the way. A mic is better for movement. But for now, we use the podcast mic. So that's just something that I do with lots of people, especially if people are struggling with shoulder stability, neck pain, shoulder pain. That's often a good movement muscle group to look at. Many people are not strong and not mobile there, so it's just a good thing to play with in general. I have a student, really experienced, super strong yogi, but who has some shoulder stuff going on. So I told her that I thought she should take chaturanga out of her practice for now. She was fine with that, but she did still really like the movement in coordination with the breath, and she wanted to flow, and she takes my group class, so she wanted to kind of be able to flow with everybody else. So what we initially did was have her inhale into plank with everybody, hold still in plank, while everybody exhaled into chaturanga, and then go right from plank into upward dog on a breath in, and then back to downward dog. And that's what she'd been doing, and that was just fine. But I got to do a private lesson with her. We started playing with some of this Serratus push-up work. We found her Serratus to be actually quite weak. And so I said, this is a really good thing for you to do. And then we had the brainstorm to put a little Serratus push-up, protraction, retraction of the shoulder blades, in place of the movement of chaturanga. So, and I'll show you in a second, but it goes inhale into plank. In the exhale, retraction, protraction, all while breathing out. Find a neutral shoulder blade, come into upward dog or whatever back bend you like as you breathe in, and then back to downward facing dog as you breathe out. And she liked that a lot because it was a way to incorporate this kind of corrective exercise that she needed to do into the context of the practice that she already knew and loved and was doing a lot. So we don't do a ton of that kind of vinyasa in my classes, a handful, but we do some, and it feels good to kind of drop into that breath and body moving together thing. So then I started teaching this option to everybody, because then I thought, if we're not doing chaturanga, the traditional chaturanga, we could do this. If we could do this sequence of movements in lots of different ways, we could do more of them. I teach probably quite a bit fewer vinyasa than people who take vinyasa are used to. So once we started incorporating some other ways of doing it, we started layering in more, and we got to really drop into that feeling of flow and rhythm and breath, and people loved it. So I like to have in my bag, and I'll keep sharing with you guys as well, lots of different alternatives to the traditional vinyasa, just to get a lot of movement variety in our diet. Let me just show you what it looks like. Looks like this. Start in downward facing dog. Come to plank on the breath in. Use the exhale to do a Serratus push-up. And then come to upward dog on the in-breath. And back to downward dog on the out-breath. So that is Serratus push-up and Serratus push-up in place of chaturanga. So let me know if you try this, how it goes, and what questions you have. Okay, bye for now.